Good morning, Liz. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today?
Oh, very well, thank you. I'm trying to wake up.
All right. Well, I'm already waking up here, so I've woken up, so I'll take care of that part. Um, so we have a listener requested probe today, and I have a bunch of questions as well that I'm thinking of. So we're going to go through my questions and the listeners' questions on the metabolism. So I'm guessing people want to know how to speed up their metabolism. I'm assuming. And I have a few ideas about that. And we're going to pull in a panel of people to help us here. First is Mei Wen Ho. We've used her many times before. She's she's passed on now, but she was a very sophisticated biologist and evolutionary biologist. So she knows a lot about the human body and how it works. And do you have her here with us?
I do. I do. She likes us calling on her.
Oh, yeah. She deserves our attention, I believe, to the utmost degree. So I'm also going to pull in someone. I don't know if you can grab them. I don't even know if they're passed on or not. We can find out. Let's see. His name is Fritz Holwich, and he wrote this book. I can't find a picture of him, but this is an older book from the 70s. I wonder.
Okay. Is he a doctor? Is he a professor?
He was a professor of ophthalmology, I believe.
Excuse me. Okay.
Do you have Fritz Holwich with us?
I'm searching for him.
He wrote this book that I have up on the screen right now.
I think he is. I think he's in spirit.
I would assume so, because it's been quite a while since he wrote this book.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel like he's in spirit. I'm like, are you coming forward? And he's, he is coming forward, but he's very hesitant. And I'm saying, why are you so hesitant? And he's like, well, I've never done this before, Liz. All right. So this is kind of new. I'm like, you've been back in the spirit world for a long time. He's like, yeah, that's true. And I'm saying, it's okay. Have some confidence. I'm like, did you have a problem with confidence here on the earth plane? And yes, he did. So this is an example of how we carry our problems with us wherever we go.
Wow. Well, Mr. Holwich, we have full confidence in you. And I actually read your book, and you're here because I enjoyed your work, and I think you have something to offer us.
Excellent. Okay. And I'm saying you're in a better position with all the answers now anyway.
That's right.
So he's here. I feel like he's been gone a long time.
Yeah, well, this book came out in the 70s. I'm not sure how old he was when he wrote it, but he was a professor, so I'm sure he was on in years at that point. So we're gonna probe metabolism and a few different things. Like my personal opinion on things and what I've read, reading books like his, as you can see the title, The Influence of Light Perception on Metabolism in Man and Animal. Within the book, he documented many studies that showed that light itself coming through the eyes can have massive effects on hormones and metabolism, right? Because those are in sync with each other. Really, when you have a metabolism issue, I mean, it's really linked with hormones. And you can see that in a lot of ways, because when people, they may be overweight and they may be eating really clean, they may be exercising their butts off, and they reach like a glass ceiling where they can't go any farther. And a lot of the times it's to do with the hormones are not functioning correctly, so that kind of stops them from, getting the weight off. Right, their body, it's a hormone story. So with his work, we saw, I think really for the first time in modern times, that light frequencies really affect metabolism more than we would think. So, Mr. Hallwich, coming from the other side now, looking back on the work that you did, do you still feel that the hormones and metabolism are really affected by light in the way that your book covered from the studies?
Do you believe that the hormones are really affected by the light? He's saying no.
Really interesting. So what's the what does he know now that he didn't know before about that?
What do you know now? It's more about vibrational levels and vibrational state
Interesting.
and
So,
brain chemistry.
okay. So the brain chemistry and vibrations, I mean, the vibrational state, is that not affected by light?
Is that not affected by light? It can be affected by light, yes.
Interesting. Okay. And there have been a lot of studies done after you passed on and after your work was published that really show that circadian biology, or the clocks that we have inside us as mammals, are actually really affected by light frequencies from the sun. And so does he think that those are not effective as well? Those studies are flawed?
You think those studies are flawed? It, he's saying to me, you know, yes, that is a factor, but the root cause is the brain chemistry, and that's what everybody seems to be missing. It You can still balance the brain chemistry without being exposed to too much light.
Interesting. Okay. And so what are some examples of how you could change the brain chemistry beyond light in a natural way?
What are some of the examples of? It's about he's saying that cortisol is the main disruptor.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes. So cortisol is our daytime awake hormone. So when the sun is out, right, and we have lots of blue light coming from the sky, it's sending a signal saying, "Hey, it's daytime right now," right? And then when the sun goes down, then melatonin is secreted. That's the opposite of cortisol. So when we're in darkness, melatonin is secreted. So would he agree with that? That cortisol is driven by the being in the daytime light, and then when darkness comes, melatonin is secreted.
Yes, that's how it's supposed to work. Yes.
So how would you suggest, given that that's the case, then how would we suppress the cortisol at night if we weren't in darkness?
We're living in a chaotic existence. We're living in a chaotic world.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's everything. So not only do we have artificial light all the time, right, when the sun is down, but we also can eat at any time. We can now have access to food 24 hours a day, right? We have all these stressors. Our jobs never end, right? We're constantly getting, technology is bombarding us at all hours of the day and night. Would you agree with that? That's the chaos that we're in.
Yes, absolutely. That is this 24-hour access is bad for us.
Right. Right.
Ooh.
So again, it's like a lifestyle thing in order to balance the brain chemistry, right? Is that what you would agree with it? Lifestyle changes?
Would you believe it's no? Yes, we have to go back to basics.
Okay. And that's really what I've been focusing on actually in my health consulting, is back to basics. There's a lot of fad stuff out there and diets and exercises you can do, which have their place in context. But really, what's really missing is these foundational things, right, that we take for granted, that we're kind of normalized to in our modern environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into some of my questions around other questions I have on metabolism here. Let's see. This may be a question for Manway Ho more, but we'll just consult the panel as a whole. So there's another hormone that a lot of people don't know about, and that's called leptin. And leptin is found there's leptin receptors found in our fat cells. So these exist in the subcutaneous fat that's on the surface of the skin, right? And also fat cells within the body as well. And I believe it's found not just on the surface, but deep within the body. And this leptin hormone is involved with the energy regulation of our body. So it senses if we have a lot of energy there. So if we have a lot of energy stored in, say, fat, we have a lot of fat reserves, it's going to send a signal to the brain and say, hey, we're full. We don't need to be hungry right now. We don't need to eat more food. Now, if that hormone is not functioning correctly, then we will signal to the brain that, hey, we need to eat more food. And we have the hunger, urge to eat more than maybe we need to. Right. So you could have someone that maybe is overweight, but their leptin hormone isn't functioning correctly. And that's why they're wanting to eat more and more and more and more. Their hunger is still there. I would say that this is involved with your metabolism. Would the panel agree that that's correct, that leptin is a part of metabolism?
It's essential.
Okay. And so the way that I've learned for leptin, there's a couple things that affect it. Eating a higher protein meal in the morning time, a high fat, high protein meal in the morning time can actually reset the leptin receptor over a period of time. Would they agree with that?
Eating high fat in the morning?
Like protein and fat, like a higher fat protein and fat breakfast. So a bigger
As
meal.
As opposed to any carbs, like no carbs.
Yeah, you could have some, but you would save your carbs for more the afternoon, maybe.
Would you agree that eating more protein and fat, it increases metabolism?
Right. Okay. And the other thing that I've learned about leptin is actually it's a receptor for light frequencies. Specifically, I believe it's blue light. So when there's blue light in the environment, it's hitting the leptin receptor under the skin, and then that's sending a signal about the environment that you're in. Like, are we, is it summertime? Because it's brighter in the summertime, right, in the northern hemisphere. And is it daytime for one, right? So we're consuming food during the daytime normally. So I guess my question to them is the blue light that's hitting the leptin receptor, that's also affecting metabolism?
Is the blue light that's hitting the receptor, is that also affecting metabolism? No.
Okay. So what would they say is the purpose of that leptin receptor having absorbing those frequencies of light?
What is the purpose of the leptin receptor receiving the frequencies of light? That's just to maintain it.
Okay.
Would it increase if? See, this is where the questions have to be watertight, right?
Yeah.
I see the flaw in the question. It's not that your question is flawed. It's your question is excellent. But the question was, I can't even remember what the question was now, but I can see he's like, what is the purpose of the blue light? Well, the purpose is to maintain it. We want to know how to speed it up, right? So would the increase of blue light speed it up? Not necessarily, because the receptors can only hold so much.
Well, actually, I think it would do the opposite. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, really? Why do you think that?
Well, we're only like, if you're getting the light at the wrong time, for instance, let's say you were getting blue light when the sun isn't out from your computer screen or your phone or from the bright, really bright artificial lights that we're using these days in our homes, then that would disrupt the proper metabolism, because you'd actually be eating more. You'd be more hungry because your body's getting the signal, hey, it's daytime. We need to make energy. We got to get through the day. It's not over yet.
Oh, I see. Is that true? That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's
All right.
exactly right. And also, that receptor it controls our feeling of fullness in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Does
Yes.
that
And
make sense?
that's exactly what I've read that it does. The studies show that it does. So that's why I suggested when I said before, if we eat a higher fat, higher protein meal in the morning, we're actually making ourselves more, what's the word? Receptive to that receptor. Because so let's say this is the theory anyways, and they can tell me I'm wrong, is that when you eat like lots of sugar and you're eating, multiple meals a day, like you might be snacking all day, it's making that receptor less sensitive, so that almost like, people have heard of insulin resistance. Well, you can be leptin resistant in the same way, where your hunger hormone it's telling you you're hungry all the time because you're snacking all the time, you're eating higher sugar. And so it's that receptor is not as sensitive as it should be. Now, to resensitize it, you can eat a higher fat protein meal early in the morning so that you feel full and satiated, right? And you can slowly build in the habit that you eat less meals during the day. So you stop snacking. You maybe only eat maybe 2 meals a day, right? And this can also help with the calorie restriction. We've also viewed as quite beneficial too. So
That's interesting, because as you were talking, I'm asking him about carbs. Well, I'm asking her as well. And both of them are in agreement that carbs should be absolutely minimal. The problem is carbs are mass produced.
yes.
So they're easy filler foods, rice, noodles, pasta, and you find that their origins they come from, a lot of poverty stricken regions in order to feel full. Potatoes, and it was never supposed to be like that, ever. But as we have now gone into this mass production of food, everybody sort of caught on to the idea that, well, food is expensive, even more so now than it feels like it ever was. I mean, in this lifetime. And now we're using these carbs just to feel full. That's not what carbohydrates are supposed to do. They're supposed to be the vehicle for certain types of nutrients, so found in fruit, found in certain vegetables, and still those carbs are quite minimal if you ate those foods. But what we're just consuming too many carbs. Now, he's saying to me that that is what slows the metabolism. It's the consumption, he says over consumption of carbohydrates.
Yeah, that makes total sense to everything that I've learned so far. Okay, so this might be a 2 or 3 parter again at this point. But what would they say, is there anything that I'm missing on leptin? It's really not well known at all anyways, but I mean, is there anything important to keep that leptin receptor working properly that we haven't mentioned there?
Do carbohydrates have an effect on the leptin receptor? Yeah, the carbohydrates slow the leptin receptors down. So it may not even just be like sugary foods that we shouldn't be eating anyway, but just in general, over an over influx or an over consumption of carbohydrates is slowing the leptin down.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I'm suggesting, to eat a higher fat, higher protein meal in the beginning of the day to keep yourself satiated, so that you can, you're not as hungry.
But
And it's
it has to be a healthy fat, though.
Yes, I should point that out.
Like
Yeah.
an avocado or uh,
Uh,
what
extra
else?
virgin olive oil,
Yeah.
right? Like grass-fed butter or ghee, clarified butter, something like that in terms of fat, you know.
And also, our lifestyles are so busy now, is what he's saying. So carbohydrates have become a way of convenience as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
And
And so, yeah, go ahead. No,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no, that's it's just that's another way we're over consuming carbohydrates. Whereas before, men were hunter gatherers, women were, cooking and preparing. There was plenty of time to invest in the consumption of food.
Sure.
It was ritualistic almost, Um, and now that's gone out the window for
It's
most people.
mechanical. It's
Yeah,
just
it is. It's
mechanical.
mechanical. It's, oh, I'm hungry. I'm getting the signal, and I'm filling myself with foods that are too high in carbohydrates, foods that are not nutrient dense, he's saying, and therefore we're always hungry. But the metabolism is still trying to, process the last meal, and we're still hungry for the next one. And so then we have this like backlog of absorption and backlog of processing, and it clogs up the whole system, is what he's saying to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's in line with the calorie restriction stuff that we talked about, eating less meals, less volume of food. And really, the way to be successful in that, in my opinion, is to eat a higher fat diet because that will satiate you more, right? And again, it has to be higher quality, right? Because if you're eating less, then you definitely want to, have higher quality in the less that you're eating, right? So if you're not spending as much money on the mass quantities and the snacks and all that stuff, you can take that and spend it on higher quality food that has more nutrient dense, hopefully. Um, so let's get to some more things that I wanted to talk about. Cold therapy. I want to ask the panel, do they think that engaging in some sort of cold therapy practice can help speed up the metabolism?
Engaging in some cold therapy practice. Yes, it can. If it's
Okay.
done throughout the day, multiple times.
Yes. And there's
So,
actually, yeah.
sorry, he's saying to me, when you bring your body temperature down, your metabolism has to work harder in order to bring the body up to temperature. And that increases caloric intake, or sorry, increases caloric burning. And then, but then once you have stabilized to that temperature, then you can do that, repeat again. The problem is, and I'm saying, but say we did this for a month. Say we did 2 cold therapy treatments per day for a month, and then we stopped doing it. Would our metabolism still be increased? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it would be like, I would see it as like an adjunct to doing the thing that we just talked about,
Hmm.
which is, correcting the leptin receptor and not being leptin resistant anymore. Then that's more fundamental. This is like, let's say you wanted to, you had a target to lose some weight. This would be something to make it more efficient, but it would not replace the fundamental things you need to do, like changing your diet and
Mm-hmm.
frequency.
And what's coming through very strongly is the body is a conservation machine.
Mhm, mhm.
That's coming through very strongly. It
Yep.
will always expend the least energy possible in order to conserve, so that if there is a problem with, finding food, sourcing food, uh, you know, the
Famine, yeah, or something.
the body, that's how the body is built. That's in the DNA.
Hmm.
That has not changed, really. And so the body will always conserve more so than burn. It works on conserving. Now I'm going to ask a question. There are some people in this world that can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, and they're skinny, skinny, skinny. They cannot put on weight. Why is it that their metabolism is faster than, okay, he says thyroid, but that's always intrigued me, that in this access, 24-hour access to food now, obviously in the US and a lot of Western countries, we're starting to see a lot more obese people. And I always had the theory that it was because the DNA has not evolved, or evolution has not happened to speed up to this level that we are. It's almost like we're outpacing evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our
It didn't
technology.
used to be like that. Was it always like that in the past? No. Normally, things progress more slowly, and our DNA had time over, a few generations to catch up and to morph into whatever it was that was needed to contend with this new way of life.
Right. But in this case, the new way
Hmm.
of life may not be the healthiest way. So do you want to adapt to the unhealthy lifestyle, chaotic lifestyle? That's the question.
I think that it's not a matter of yeah, but I agree with you. But it's not a matter of, he's saying, do we want to adapt? It's that we have to adapt, because
Yeah.
our DNA structure, our body structure is still not used to having access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, convenience, of food. And we're losing sight of a lot of the human skills that we once had, which was, we could decipher what was good food and what was bad food, and we knew like what berries to pick, and how to grow, how to grow things. And you ask people nowadays, do they know how to grow successfully a garden? Most people don't know. They have no idea. It's not easy. It's not as like just planting a seed and expecting that's all you have to do. It takes skill and it takes a lot of hard work. But he's saying to me, like, and I'm saying, will our bodies ever catch up? And it's going to take hundreds and hundreds of years for our bodies evolution to catch up to where we are today. And then where we are today will seem like an alien concept, because we'll be so far out into the future. So we're actually moving, or our lifestyles are moving at a faster rate than our bodies and DNA can evolve.
Right. So you mentioned a couple different things. I have made notes so first off, you said we've generally lost the ability to decipher what a good food is. Like using our intuition, right? If how people, like, we're not body aware. We have very low body awareness now, just, feeling what's going on in our body or feeling energy. If the average person now would take the time to more focus in on their body awareness, could they develop the intuition of asking themselves, like, is this good to eat? Is this good for me, kind of thing? Like, people have a practice of, asking their body what it needs in terms of food. Can anybody do that?
No, because some people are so switched off to nutrition.
So
And
if they got,
before he's saying, we knew what to eat and when to eat it. So we would eat things that are in season, things that were local. We knew how to store food, not this plastic packaging, but we knew how to. Our body actually adapted to locally sourced nutrition. And now this is all out of whack too, and this is playing a big effect on our hormones and our metabolism.
Yeah, and we talked about that in a previous probe. I believe it was I can't even remember now.
I know
which one
we do
it
so
was.
many.
But what we found is that I was asking the question because I practice this myself is seasonal eating is very important. So when you're eating a banana in Chicago in December, it's sending a signal to your body. It's a mismatch, right? And that there's some inflammation and different things that are going on there. So it does matter. Eating seasonally does really matter. From where you are. And, I believe you came back and said, well, how the heck do you know what grows where? Nobody knows what grows where they are. And, one way is you can visit your local farmer's market and at least find out and ask a farmer, and, you can ask a search engine as well. There's information out there still. But yes, we've lost that inherent sense, the environment dictating what we would eat. Okay, so one more thing on cold therapy there. I have ways to do cold therapy actually throughout the day as well that aren't like crazy for people. But I also wanted to ask about brown fat. So for those that don't know, we actually can build up this massive fat. It's located, I think, mostly on our back of the neck, like upper back area, and it's incredibly good at speeding up your metabolism if you have lots of this brown fat. And you can actually build more of it by exposing those areas to cold, like putting a cold pack on that area or getting cold water on that specific area. And the reason that it is brown fat is that there's huge amounts of mitochondria clustered in those areas for energy consumption. So do they think that building more brown fat is beneficial to the metabolism?
Essential. Yes.
Okay.
That's how you turn your body into a machine.
Right. So the ways that I know of off the top of my head right now is actually exposing the back of the neck area, upper back, to cold water or ice packs for, periods of time. Do they have any other ways to build brown fat?
Ways to build brown fat. That's the best way.
Okay, it's really the only way that I know, I think.
So that's like putting an ice pack on the back of your neck.
Yeah, or exposing it to cold water, like, taking like what I would do is you can actually buy these cold vests that you throw into the freezer, and you can actually wear these underneath your clothes. And keep your skin temperature cold over, while you're at work or something like that. I think there's one called the cool fat burner. And believe it or not, actually, there's a surgical technique that they actually apply cold steel to the skin to actually burn fat off. Like it's called like body sculpting or something like that. I don't know if it's the same mechanism of action, but cold is definitely really good. I know as we've learned here, at getting rid of fat. So, so you can also put like putting actual ice on there is not a good idea because you can get like burns from the ice if your skin's not conditioned. So, one way is you can actually wear, there's this material, I can't remember what it's called now, but they sell it at like athletic stores, and compression shirts. That's what it is, compression shirts. You can get a compression shirt and then you can actually apply like ice to it, like blocks of ice to that area. You can take cold showers and just, have the cold water just constantly pouring onto the back. And also obviously there's the cold plunges and stuff like that when you're really, sophisticated at doing cold therapy. So I believe it's just getting the skin temperature down cold enough for certain periods of time. However you can do that.
So what about, okay, that's for brave people. I mean, I'm, Mr. Photon, I love you, but I can't take a cold shower. Like that's just so uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Well, for everybody, it is, for sure. It is definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's something that you work up to. It's not, you're not trying to shock the system here. Okay. There's actually ways to adapt to the cold. Now, a lot of people do that and they get scared of it and they never do it again. But there is a way to actually slowly acclimatize yourself to it.
Because I've heard of cold water shock where people jump into a body of water that's really cold and it actually kills them.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken people into the cold water before for their first time, and I believe that there is definitely a mental component to that. If you think you're going to die, then you may panic. Um, and I don't usually advocate people go straight to that, but I have had people jump into a frozen lake before for their first time, just for a few seconds, and it's really knowing that they're okay, they're comfortable, they're not going to die, they're you know what I mean, like it's use the breath to just calm yourself down, and they're only in there for a few seconds. It's quite invigorating once you get out. And most people, when they do that, everybody's scared of doing it. I'm scared even of doing it because it's just like as a natural defense mechanism in my body is like, don't do that, you're going to die. But I've never had an experience where I've hopped out of cold water and I felt negatively about it, because it turns on all of your neurotransmitters and hormones, and just there's something about it that's primal, that your body wants to protect you from, because there is danger there, obviously, if you weren't under the right conditions, and you were by yourself, right? You should not do that by yourself. But yeah, I agree with you. Everybody is scared of doing it, for sure. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned veteran or not. It's just the body's natural, like, don't do that, you're going to die. But anyways, so that is an effective way to speed up the metabolism. So there are ways to do that for people without shocking the body, for sure. Okay, here's another one that I wanted to look at in terms of exercise. So a lot of people want to do cardio exercises. So by this, I mean, like steady state running or jogging, where you're constantly jogging for long periods of time, like, half hour, 40 minutes, hour, you're on a treadmill, you're jogging outside. What I have learned is that, just like we talked about before with the cold therapy, your body wants to conserve energy as much as possible, so that you are burning that body fat off when you're running. But when you stop, your body is putting on even more fat, because it has to make up for the stressor of doing all that running you did for the last month. So unless you keep running and you keep up that practice, your body's like, well, I don't want to die from all this overrunning that I'm doing, so I better put on more fat. So you'll notice a lot of people that that will run for a long time and be consistent with it. As soon as they stop for whatever reason in their life doing that practice, they'll actually put on all the weight back on really easily. So can we ask the panel, is that more or less correct? Like, if you're going to, use cardio to get fat off, I mean, you have to keep doing it.
If you're going to use cardio to get fat off, you're going to have. Yes, because immediately you go into conservation mode. Mm-hmm. Your body is basically saying, oh, well, the environment must be difficult. See, I'm saying, does the DNA live in 2023? No, the DNA is functioning thousands of years ago, right? It's functioning, it's still at that level. So what it's saying is to the body, well, you've just had to run from an animal or chase an animal, or, maybe you're running from some freak weather event or some freak, war or whatever it is. And you had to burn a lot, and as soon as you stop, your body actually tries to work harder to conserve more. Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
I love it when I'm right, Liz.
I know. But yeah, that's interesting, because a lot of times people will get to an ideal weight, or, and then they'll say, well, I don't have to work hard at this anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're right. They stop, and then the weight starts creeping on almost overnight. And I'm saying, well, it's the same with fasting. Does fasting slow down the metabolism? Yes, it does. So I don't know how to contend with that, because you need fasting or intermittent fasting for the body to work optimally, but it also puts the body at a standstill.
Right. I think I do have some answers to that. However, we're going to take that up in a part 2, because we're running a little bit long here. So we're going to come back to that. All right.
Why don't we stop this one here and then we'll start a part two?
Sounds good.